Thursday, as a birthday gift, my son Joshua took me to Facebook in Palo Alto or wherever that is, to visit a company that Facebook bought about a year or two ago called Oculus Rift, which is a virtual reality company, and they spent $2 billion for it, so it clearly was not a lighthearted gesture to buy that company. I've been very interested in virtual reality for a long time. My first produced film was a film called Brainstorm, and it's a film in which an inventor puts this helmet over your head and allows you to record your experience, your thoughts, memories, your visual world, sensory world. And then somebody can take that helmet, put it on themselves, their personal life blacks out, and the world that they play on the tape, if you will, at that point it was tapes, fills your sense of space, and you become, for all intents and purposes, someone else. The two key elements in that film were, one, that this inventor had a marriage that was falling apart, and in order to save the marriage, he recorded or put together all of his memories of how much he loved his wife. And she put on the helmet and experienced that love from him to her, and it completely transformed and saved the marriage. Later on, one of the women who worked in the laboratory had a heart attack, and had the presence of mind while she was having the heart attack to put this helmet on over her head and recorded her death. And it kept playing after she died. And our scientists decided to try to play back that tape to see what happened, what it was like. And as he started to experience her heart attack, he too started to die. And he took it off, he got out of it. And he started rearranging the information so that he didn't have to experience all of it. He could experience like just the visual. And he starts to play that tape again and discovers this journey beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the self. And it was a really interesting movie. It didn't do great in the box office. It was kind of renowned as Natalie Wood's last film. She died while she was making it. And it does not represent 100% of what I was hoping it would be, as most movies don't. But it got made, and it was, in a way, significant. And the Writers Guild recently was going to hold a virtual reality conference, and they said, basically, lest we forget where virtual reality comes from, and they showed a picture of my film, my character with his headset on. So, not that I am the father of virtual reality, but I am definitely connected to that universe. And so I was very anxious to connect and see it. And so Joshua lovingly got me to Oculus Rift. And so Thursday, we drove down to Facebook, which is already fascinating because it's such an iconic space, you know, this world of whoever these people are, these unbelievable minds, all gathered together, producing, if you will, Facebook, which I've never used in my life, so I don't know, I can't comment on Facebook, but the Oculus Rift was a corner of the campus. And I went in there and met this guy named Volga, who was one of the early hirees of this company. And we walk into a room that was about a third the size of this room, absolutely nondescript, uninteresting space. Had a little mat on the floor that was about 3 by 3, maybe 4 by 4 at most. A about an inch off the ground. And we didn't spend a lot of time just talking. He said, here we go. And he gives me the helmet. And I put it on. My eyes are covered, my ears are covered, and they turn on the machine, and I saw the future. I saw the future on so many levels. It's hard to describe, and I'm going to try to describe it, because what I saw is metaphorically resonant and important to what we do. Where it will lead, I have no idea, because it's impossible to know how technology will impact us. But all I can tell you is you put this on and you are suddenly in a completely three-dimensionally realized world, other than the space you're standing in. And your first reaction is, oh my God. And you can't believe it. I mean, you can't believe how absolute it is. You can look up, you can look down, you can look around. Everything is realized, and it's in motion, and it's three-dimensional, and it's as real and present as it is here. And this was a demonstration reel, so there was a whole series of things that went on. And there were so many different moments that they're hard to describe them all, but in one of them, you're in the kind of jungle, and you hear something clomping through the bushes, coming at you, and you see grass and trees going down, and this dinosaur arrives. And I've never seen a dinosaur in reality before, and this was as close as I'll get. And he came right up to me and opened his jaws, and I am just looking in his mouth and his teeth, and it's like right there. The only thing you can't do yet is reach out and touch him, because unfortunately you don't yet have hands or feet. You're just a floating consciousness. So you can't actually do anything, but you definitely want to. One of the quick things that came up was I was in a cartoon land with little rabbits and things moving around and clearly animated forms and grass, and it was like I became a cartoon. I was no longer a person, I was a cartoon being. And I loved being there. It was as sweet and joyous a space as you can possibly imagine. And I just like, wow, it was like I was in a Disney movie. It was so, so beautiful. And then the next thing I knew, I don't know how they created this, but I was standing on the ledge of a building about 50 stories up, looking down at the traffic, and it was somehow a futuristic universe, because these strange globe things were floating through the space around me very gently. And I have a terrible fear of heights. I hate heights. And I'm standing there looking, oh my, I mean, I thought, oh, this is scary. And I turn around, and there's like a little sidewalk thing moving back onto the ledge of the building, and I tried to get to it, but it kept moving away from me. I don't know why. And I had existential angst. It was huge, like, oh my God, and it's so real, and you're so compelled by how beautiful it is, and how realistic it is, and how scary it is, all at the same time. And I was knocked out by it. They showed me a cartoon that they created, hard to describe it, a little strange figure that looks like it's lost, a computerized figure, and then you hear this clomping, not unlike the dinosaur. And coming at you was a giant robot. But it was like towering through the trees, towering. I had never felt so small and so childlike in my entire life. This giant was so big, and it was coming to get this little creature. And it comes and it picks this thing up, which kind of wags its tail, and then it sees me. And it sits down like on top of all these trees and looks at me and just smiles. And it was like... They played a number of these tapes for me. They're not tapes, and they take so much computer power that they can't be contained in a tape. But they are beyond belief real. The last one that they did, they did one from the movie The Hobbit, where you're actually in the Hobbit space, which is like fully realize, but it's very movie set like. It's like bigger than life, and you're in Smaug's lair, and there's all this money everywhere, and the richness, and it's like you everywhere you turn, you're in that space. So it's part of you is going, I'm in a movie that I haven't seen that movie, but I was in a movie world that I knew, and it was like I could explore it. I could walk to it. You know, you can bend down and look at anything, and you can turn around, and it's just, you're phenomenally present. But the last one they did was, you're in the middle of what looks like New York City, and it's completely real, and police cars are moving by you in slow motion, and gunfire is moving by you, and there is a car that's just exploded, and it's going up in the air, and it's coming at you, and you can look up inside, and you think you're going to be hit by it, and you see the driver inside, terrified, going over your head, and he crashes just beyond you, and then you see this incredible robot monster coming at you, and everything is shooting by, and you're in this world, and you're walking down the street, and you can suddenly see like down a side street, and the buildings and everything, all of the, like the restaurants, and you see everything going on, and it's so vividly realized. And then this monster comes at you, and you can't really run very far, and it really just comes, and it goes right in front of you, and then boom, it kills you, and it turn it off. And when they turn it off, having just kind of died, and realize what it would feel like if something like that really was coming at you, because you're helpless and you can't get out of the way, and this incredible, powerful thing hits you, and then you take off the goggles, and you're in this tiny little room, really innocuous, kind of stupid room, and you can't believe that you're in that space, because you've just been everywhere in the universe. You've been all over the place, and it cannot possibly be contained in that tiny little room, and yet it was. I knew before going in that the idea of virtual reality would have a way of making people possibly look at their own reality differently. But I didn't know how much until I took off that helmet. And I realized I liked that world better than this one. I liked it out there. I liked the variability. I liked the dynamic. I liked all the adventurous qualities to it. And we weren't even touching the surface of where this could go, let alone the depth. The things that they're going to be able to do, the things they're trying to do, it's the Wild West of imagination. So much possibility, and everybody knows it. And they're not even trying to develop it in company. They're trying to let everybody play with it, because it's such a big idea. Anyone who wants to develop these ideas, they're saying, here's the material. Do it. Let's see what we are. Who are we? What are we? How does this develop? How does it become something? Where does it want to go? Nobody knows exactly. But what you do know is this. They are attempting to get one very specific thing in every one of these experiences. And I'll tell you what they call it. It's really fascinating. They call it presence. They want to create presence. Now, you know I use that word all the time. Presence is the one thing we all feel and share in this experience right now. Every one of us is present here. We're all sitting in different configurations in this room, but every one of us knows we are sharing presence. And it is one of the most potent truths of our existence. Even when everything shifts, when you go to sleep, there's still presence. When you go to a movie, there's presence. When you walk down the street, there's presence. When you wake up in the morning, you look outside, it's presence, meaning it has reality. It has fullness. It's dimensional. It exists. You're in this remarkable space. And that is somehow what we know creates reality, because it's present. And their desire to create presence is to create what we would call reality. And it works. And this will be we don't know what it's going to be. We don't know if it's going to be the new entertainment form of the future, whether this will be armchair travel of the future. I mean, you can literally walk down the Champs-Élysées with this thing on your head and look in every store window. You can see cars going by, see people walking down the street. You can breathe in Paris. You can do that. You'll be able to do that. You won't have to get on an airplane to walk and look at the Eiffel Tower, to go up the elevator of the Eiffel Tower, to walk around each platform, to look down and see Paris laid out before you. You don't have to go anywhere. You can have that full experience. There are people talking about inventing games that will take you out into outer space, that will allow you to walk on the planet Mars without being on the planet Mars or on the moon. They are talking about so many rich ideas of things you can do, and they're trying to figure out entertainment, movies. Video games are a pretty obvious possibility for this, but they're not going to be like video games you've been playing where you're sitting at home. These are video games where you are in that world with all your buddies in that world, running around, having real-time adventure. And at some point, they are going to figure out how to give you feet and hands, and at some point, they're going to figure out how to give you touch. And years ago, was researching a movie about all of this, and I went to JPL Labs in Pasadena, and they showed me their research, which is there's these gloves you can put on, and you put on these gloves, and then they show you objects that don't exist, they're just on a computer screen, and you can touch these objects. And they have softness, they have hardness, they have spikiness, they have furriness, and you can feel this. You can feel it. They haven't integrated all this yet with virtual reality, but you know they will. Everything is just time. It's all happening, and it's happening very quickly. And the big question is, how? How will this impact us as a species? What does it do to us when our reality can be shifted so completely for anybody? There's no answer yet for that question. But to me, it's not unlike what happened with LSD. LSD basically said, your reality is not the reality you imagine it to be. It shifts you so rapidly out of this physicality into something completely other. Now, LSD has a kind of primacy. There's something about it that is talking to you from a higher consciousness, let's say. Virtual reality is still just human consciousness. It's still human creation. It's not of that otherness at all. But what it does is it makes you look at this reality. And it gives you a metaphor for this reality which we might label virtual. It's so not other than this that you have to begin to look around yourself and go, huh. So we went out for ice cream after. One of the great things about Facebook, the whole campus, is they have this huge street, and it's just lined with restaurants and video game parlors and all sorts of things, and everything is free. Everything, you can have any meal you want, you can do anything. It's all free to all the people who are there. So we just went and got ice cream. I don't get ice cream very often, and I actually got with hot fudge, and we sat there and we ate, and I just sat there and thinking, this is just virtual. This is totally virtual, and it was just remarkable feeling. There was nothing more solid about this than there was in the moments I had been in that little room. So the important element in all this, other than somehow our future is going to be affected by this, and it could also be really simple. It could be that it's just another 3D movie experience for people, and have no more value than that. It could just come down to, hey, this is fun, you got to try this. Or it could be for masses or just some people that very thing they need to re-examine this space that we inhabit. And it's possible, in re-examining this space, just to consider it a virtual reality space makes you go, who made it? Why? How did it come into being? Why does it allow us to grow from Cro-Magnon man into creators of virtual reality. How do we do that? How did that journey happen? What it does is it provokes the questioning. It provokes the mystery. You have to look at life other than just, how can I make more money? How can I get a better job? How can I get that girl to sleep with me? Whatever the thing is in life that is your whole drive and experience, it makes you stop for a moment and go, and then you start to look at what has been presented to us as answers to those questions. You know, the how and the why. And you realize these are weird answers. You know, somebody named God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested, and you know, he created birds and animals and oceans and then man and then Adam and Eve, and you go, okay, that's an interesting picture. You know, you can go into, you know, stories of magic and walking on water and dividing the Red Sea. You can do all this kind of stuff, but boy, does that have a virtual feeling. That's, I mean, if you want to talk about virtual, making that sea disappear or divide so that armies can go through it, or whole tribes of Jews can walk through the Red Sea. That's like, how's that happening? And virtual reality is a better answer to that, perhaps, really, than any kind of idea of mystical of truth. We have the Buddhist story in which none of this is real at all. It's just nothingness becoming something and becoming nothing. Whatever the right story is, it's a story that we've told ourselves. It's a story that we have all come to believe. And those of you who are listening to my last few weeks of talks are conversant with this, that it's just something you're telling yourself. And it only holds up, and I always do this with my hands, because there's reality from here to here that holds up. But as soon as you move beyond that contextual space into that reality doesn't hold up anymore. And so virtual reality is a kind of explanation. I don't think it's the explanation. I mean, who knows? It's a good one. But the fact is, none of us know. We don't know how we got here, why we're here, what this is, how it came into being. We walk around in this phenomenal mystery of existence, and yet so many people walk around with a sense of knowing because their parents told them, or their Sunday school teachers told them, or their best friends on the block told them, this is what it is. And you go, oh, no, that's what it is. And you lock into a very reduced, small concept of existence, and then you live within it. And then somewhere, 2/3 of the way through, all of your attainment, all of your acquisitional powers go away, and half of what you own or more starts perhaps to dissipate. And you go, but why? What is this? Why is it that I get everything and then it gets taken away? Why do they take my body away? Why does it fall apart like a car? Why do I lose everything that I was working so hard to get? These are massive questions that a lot of people never do ask themselves. They just go through going, well, they may listen to their story. Well, this is how it works, and then you die, and then you go to heaven, go to hell, you go back to the nothingness, you find it's a dream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. You don't know what's coming. But the fact that you don't know what's coming doesn't mean that most people don't have some investment in some idea of what's coming. And for me, none of that is going to be real. It's not real. It's all your story. I mean, it might become the answer. It may become the answer. Who knows, really? But the idea that you walk around in a state of assurance, of certainty, that you know. I mean, it's a good way to get through life on some level. It makes you more at ease, and maybe that's a good thing, to have some sense that it all ends in nothing, or you end up in heaven, or whatever it is you think is going to happen is very reassuring. But from where I sit, and the more I let go of knowledge and tutorials and stories, the more the unknown with a big capital U presents itself. Not knowing may be the best way to live, because it keeps you in a state of wonder. It keeps you in a state of exploration. It keeps you in a state of aliveness. Once you know things, once you have certainty, you cocoon yourself, in a certain sense, from what may be truth and reality. Once you've cocooned yourself, you may have a very comfortable ride through this mysterious space. But one thing that will happen is that everything that has brought you security, everything, the fabric of that cocoon, is all going to go away. And you are either going to let it go, or you are going to hold it for everything you're worth. But nothing you do is going to prevent that from happening. It will all ultimately go away. So this meditation idea is really interesting. It's called letting go, the practice of surrender. In other words, learning how to let all of this go even now. Because there is an inevitability to all of this. It will occur. At least it appears that everyone we know dies. Everyone we know lets go. Everyone we know has a period where their body either decomposes or it just is pulled away. One way or another, it has finality. And this idea of meditation is surrender, 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 surrender. Let go, let go, let go. And what starts to happen as you surrender is a feeling of what's called liberation or freedom. And what that freedom means is that you're not holding on to anything, or at least as much as you used to hold on to, of stuff that's going to get taken away. And you're starting to live life more aware of being, just being present, just being alive. And just being alive is a phenomenal experience. To just be aware of being alive. And what often happens when you're cocooned in knowledge and cocooned in the dictates of other people's construction of you, because you've been constructed by your parents and by your friends and by your relatives. They've all had a hand in making you who you are. Even though you may rebel against it, they defined much of what that is. If you can't let go of that, you remain a prisoner of other people's sensibilities. And if you can free yourself of that, you can really start to live. So this is not about end-of-life issues, it's about present tense issues. It's about now. How do I become free now? Just let go. And as you all know from these rambling dialogues or monologues, at some point, after letting go and letting go and letting go, something can come and finally, out of some act of great compassion, wash away the last threads of you. And then the miraculous thing is, when you're gone, meaning your name, personality, mindset, all of that stuff, as it goes like that you're still here. And you're still here as a kind of presence. Only it's a presence that's no longer defined by this specific body-mind, but it's everywhere. Everywhere. And that presence is who and what you are. And that, as many people think, is the final arrival of spiritual life, and my claim and many people's claims is it's now the beginning of spiritual awakening. Now you're living the totality rather than the particularity. Now you just are what is, and the lessons of that are phenomenal, ongoing, unfolding. And for me, part of that unfolding took place on Thursday with the awareness that we now have a way of creating experiential presence, alternating, transformative, experiential presence in an artificial way that's called virtual, that is not very much unlike this. And that feels to me like the beginning of a mass alteration of human consciousness. That we may all begin to start to wake up to the fact that this is just one of those consciousnesses. That this world form that we're in is part of something metaphorically and perhaps even didactically real and big and other. And we're all in it. We're in it. And no one knows what it is. Nobody that I know of. Our great scientists have tried to figure it out. Our great philosophers, our great theologians all try to figure it out. Part of the joy of life is figuring it out. Living with the mystery. What is it? Part of the joy of life is not even caring about that. Part of the joy of life is just planting your garden, living day to day. It's like, what an unbelievable thing just to live, to have a day. You don't have to become one of these people who figures it out, although there's something wondrous in being aware of the mystery. But if you become one of the people who want to search for the goal, who search for the truth of that mystery, that will set you on this meditative path. And a lot of people enter the meditative path because they don't want to know the truth, they just want to get relaxed. They just want to have some peace and calm and tranquility in a life of stress and misery or whatever you're going through. So you enter this path, and then suddenly you go, oh my God, I'm on a path to something much bigger and much more dramatic than I ever thought I was on. And a lot of people want to bail at that point, which is fine, bail. You don't have to go to the end of this. But once you've started this journey, there's always going to be a nagging part of you of going, what is all that? What is that? Once you start to sit in the middle of your chakras and you see how big they get, it's very hard to just use that for stress release. It just becomes more. It's so much more. And a few of us will be motivated to go to the end of that journey, if there's an end. And who knows if there's an end. But I will tell you, whatever it is we're doing right now, we are a few steps ahead, perhaps, of people who are about to get their minds blown by virtual reality, who may start to go, what? They may just want to do nothing more than play video games in virtual reality, but there will be people who will go, what if that's all this is? Who made it? Why? How? Is it biblical? Is God someone who looks like me and invented a big game called life? Is this whole vast universe we live in just contained in a virtual space, or does it really, really exist? These are big questions. These are really big questions. And there will be your questions, and you will find yourself walking around like, wow, what is it? And it doesn't even matter if you get the answers, and I've said this before, it's the questions that do it. It's the questions that make you go feel alive. Rudy told me once we were going for a walk, and he said, sometimes I don't wake up to the fact that I'm alive until like 3 p.m. And I've talked about that, but it was like, I never even thought about waking up to feel I'm alive, let alone at 3 p.m. And so that was so powerful for me, because I realized, imagine waking up in the morning and feeling you're alive, and feeling you're really here, and you're part of this extraordinary thing, and then waking up every day like that. I think I did that when I was like a little kid. I remember waking up as a little kid and going, I have a whole day. I have a whole day in front of me. That was like the most unbelievably wonderful awareness. The complete day for who knows what's going to happen in that day. And I have to say, honestly, after 72 years, I'm back at that place. I wake up and I go, wow. And I have no idea what's coming No idea. Every day just stuff comes. I don't know where it comes from. Half of the time it's the internet. Half the time it's my son calling, can you come over to the house? We need you to babysit. I mean, you never know where it's going to come from. But life comes. And if it doesn't come, if it doesn't rise up, you have the freedom inside to go out and get it. Go out and get life. Go on a walk that you've never gone on. Go volunteer for something you never volunteered for. You have this opportunity to take life on without this limitation of saying, well, I don't do those kind of things. That's not me. Forget who you are, because that's what's going to fall away. You are whatever it is you want to design, whatever you want to become, whatever you want to do. And I have these phone calls from people and these meetings with people describing these unbelievably dysfunctional lives, who want to have a spiritual life. And I go, you know, it's not impossible that you could just go like that and get rid of all your dysfunction. Just let it go, because you're the one who's grabbing hold of it. You're the one who's at the mercy of your story. But it's all virtual. Reprogram this thing. Don't buy into your dissonances. Don't buy into your frustrations. Don't buy into your failed dreams. Let it go. Let it go. That horrible song. You know, it's really the essence. It's really the essence. We're all here with an option and an opportunity to become what life wants us to become. We are already free to be that and design it and live it. This is a virtual experiment for everybody. And you can design it and play it the way you want, and it's the Wild West of experimentation. We all have an option, and now it's not just going to happen, you know, in a dream sense. It's real. It's being created around us, and we're going to learn to create it in real terms for ourselves. This is a vibrantly exciting time. You know, again, I can't predict where it's going to go. Everything I'm talking about may turn into a, you know, like 3D movies. You know, people say, I had it, I saw it. I don't need 3D. I don't need virtual reality. I went there, I tried it. That may happen, but it may not happen. It may also be one of the life-changing moments on the planet, and that would be really exciting. So, welcome to the future. I don't know where it's going or where it's heading, but it's happening right now. They're working on it not that many miles from here, and in other places as well. They're not the only company doing this, and we're all going to be affected sooner than later, maybe by the end of this year even, by this new thing that's just infantile. It's just the beginning of something. But boy, are we lucky to be watching this moment happen. You know, just like we were lucky to see cell phones. I mean, you may not feel lucky, but it's kind of amazing. And computers and all the other stuff that has come into our lives. It's a different world, and our world is a little bit easier and a little bit brighter, and it's got all of its problems. It's got its addictions and it's got its downside, but mostly, you know, imagine being a shepherd 2,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago and raising cattle and going home and living in your hut and having a little meeting, and the sun goes down and you're freezing and you're all huddling together, and that's your life. That's what human life was, except when marauders would come and try to steal your sheep. You know, but that was human life. This is very different. This is very different. We're growing into something really, really incredible, and we're all on it and we're all in it together. And we're also, for whatever reason, drawn to this profound space of potential absolute awakening and awareness and liberation. Wow, magical time. Any questions?
I completely see the liberation part of what you just explained, but as mankind is not always as kind as they're supposed to be, what about the manipulation part?
Oh, absolutely. You know, like I'm saying, it's an unknown here. It's going to be used in so many different ways. It'll be used for selling things. There's a whole big world of talking about the pornography side of it, which is going to be phenomenal for people. You know, there's so much to it. There's so much to it that we just have no idea. So it'll be used for good and for bad, like everything else.
Yeah.
But the mere fact of it has the potential to make us look differently at the world we're living in right now. That, I think, is meaningful. And I may be completely wrong about it. I mean, it may have absolutely none of that impact. But this one designer that I was meeting with was totally on board with what I'm saying. Totally. He believes this is going to change the world, and I'm on board with him.
But change for the better.
Well, better is our projection. Better is our projection. That would be great. I know it'll be wondrous for a moment. If I was in the room with each one of you guys as you put this helmet on, I would love to watch it, because I just know exactly how you'll react. It's like, oh my God, in the most wonderful sense. And then you'll start dancing around like a little kid, exploring this newness.
Okay, but then it's just an adventure, but now it becomes a permanent part of your life.
Well, the awareness that it is, and that reality is shiftable, mutable, that says something. How we use it. Look, most human beings have a wonderful way to bring things down to their least common denominator. You know, it's like they turn things into maybe most common denominator. They make things that are so beautiful, so kind of uninteresting all of a sudden. It's just like natural. You know, nobody that I know turns on the faucet in their house and gets water and goes, oh my God. Well, those of us who live in California may do that. But when I lived in Greece, I've talked about this. I used to have to walk down to the well down the hill to get my water in 5-gallon containers and bring it up to my house, because that's the only water I had. And even then I was grateful, you know, because that's what happened. But we turn these things into the known so quickly. So quickly. We assume we have a house over our head. We assume everything. You know, the way the world works and has for centuries, that's not a given. You may have a house for right now, you may not have it in a minute. And everything else that goes along with it. You know, stoves that turn on, refrigerators that keep things, you know, cold and fresh. You know, these are miracles upon miracles upon miracles. And I know almost nobody who even thinks for a second, oh my God, I've got fresh fruit in my refrigerator that's been there for 4 days and hasn't wilted and dried up. You know, this is how we live. And trying to stay conscious, I mean, the best way to get conscious is, you know, to have a war come and have it all taken away. And then you miss it, you recreate it, and for a while you celebrate it, and then you get back into the mundane. And trying to get out of the mundane, I have to say, one of the great things about awakening, spiritual awakening, nothing's mundane. Nothing. Every second is like onward and onward and onward with wow. That's a pretty interesting way to have a life.
So are you saying that the virtual reality might help us drop our identity, ego identity, and therefore we're more likely to awaken? Is that?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if you're more likely to awaken, but it's possible. They're going to be using it for PTSD people. You know, they're going to do all sorts of psychological reprogramming. There's so much you can do. I mean, it's not even thought of yet what you can do. That's what's so exciting. It's such an unknown area. But to have other experience, or to rewire your experience, or to see parts of experience you never could have taken on your own, to jump out of an airplane and have almost the full-blown experience of that. May do one of two things: say, I don't need that experience, or I really want to have that in a full-bodied, dimensional way, or that was enough. I get it. We don't have that other than reading a book and trying to turn it into an experience internally. This is like, there you are, you're in it, and it's like, it's altering. It's just altering in ways we don't know yet.
But what was the experience when you mentioned in the beginning that something crushed you and you died, it was over?
That was one of the most fascinating.
Does that have somehow a little tiny impact on your brain?
Yes, it did on mine. I mean, I could not get out of the way of this thing. I wanted to get out of the way, but it was filling the screen, basically. I could not get out of the way, and there's no screen, so And I just went, I mean, you kind of learn, it's a good lesson, how to say yes or no. You know, here I go. That was really the feeling. And then everything was dark, and they took the helmet off, and there I was in this other space. Who's to know? You know, when this life is over, someone takes off that helmet. And where are we? And go, wow, that was a life. That was a good life. I like that one. Let me have another one. You know, give me that life. You know, I want to try the Einstein life. I want to try whoever it is. I don't know. Why not? You know, I mean, I don't know that it's like that, and it kind of gets very anti-religious to put it in those terms. And religion has some mystical value to it, but it's definitely going to make you go, no, may not be what I thought. That alone will be interesting.
I thought the film Avatar was kind of, well, it was a whole film about virtual reality.
No, but it definitely tapped into that.
Yeah, and when I remember watching it, and was overwhelmed by the possibilities.
Well, I can only tell you one of the things I said when I was in this one jungle I was walking through. I said, because they had all these little flying little creatures all around me, I kept saying, I'm an avatar. I'm really there. You know, I wasn't there in watching a 3D movie, which was terrific, but I was in an auditorium with all these other people, and clearly there were two spaces. I was there. And I was like, they've done this. They've created this.
Right.
And they're not the only ones working on this. There are other people working on it, and they're all working on making it better and making it more tactile. And I'm saying, 20 years from now, 5 years from now, who knows? It's going to be a very prevalent part of our culture. You know, it's like in Star Trek, the holodeck that you can go onto and be in that room. That's exactly what it will be like that for everybody. We'll all be able to live, if we have to, if the world is that crowded, in tiny little apartments, you know, with your little virtual reality room. And they have ways of doing it so that you won't walk into walls. They can actually kind of tell you when you're going to walk in a wall, but you'll have a clear room with just walking space, and you'll be able to be in that room, and you'll be able to be anywhere. So the fact that you live in a tiny little apartment won't matter, because you can walk down the streets of New York, you can go look in the shop, you can probably go in the shop and look at things that you want to buy, and then tap something on your wrist. Yeah, and then buy it, and it will be shipped to your little apartment somewhere, and you'll get the very thing you're looking for. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like that. So if life becomes like that, what is life? And where do we begin to find real value in the living, breathing experience of life? That's all going to be up for grabs in a way. That's interesting. You know, what is it? Right. So this opens doors. I mean, it's just the mind just can't comprehend what we're up for, but it's coming really fast.
So the virtual reality and the LSD experience, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, the difference was this higher voice or something?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more about how they were similar and different? And compare that to the time that you said, Rudy, I want an LSD experience, and you touched your head and you...
Well, that was a dream.
Okay, so I don't know. So I'm just trying to feel something here.
Well, one is technology and one is not.
Right.
The LSD experience... what it does is it takes this reality and begins to disassemble it in front of your very eyes. And that's really powerful. Everything that you know as real is suddenly not what it appeared to be. Time stops. Space disintegrates. Your body disintegrates. Your mind becomes one with all there is, and all there is no longer holding form. And you're on a journey that seems to be unfolding and programmed on some level to take you into higher source consciousness. It's very powerful. And it's talking to you in a way, but then it's your own voice talking to you, and it's your own voice that knows things that you didn't know you knew, but suddenly you're aware that this is who you've always been. I mean, it's really massive. LSD is massive. This is a shadowy comparison to that. But it can also put you in your real life and then suddenly shatter it. And that shattering is a reflection of the LSD transformation. And that can kick off something in your head that goes, whoa, this reality is not what it looks like or appears to be. Very powerful. There's another thing, and Josh is taking me up to Seattle to see this one. This is the new Microsoft Virtual Reality, which is a headset that you put on and that lets you look at everything in the room like this, only it can add to it. Like it can put a computer screen right here floating in the air, and you can ask it for help. Or it can look at a table and build a model of something on the table three-dimensionally that you can kind of interact with while you're here. This already exists. They've done it. And so we're going to go look at that. And I don't know how my son has connected with all these people, but he has, and it's all thrilling to me. I'm a little past tense in a way. I don't know that I can actually now try to write the first virtual reality movie, although I kind of think about it. Because nobody quite knows what that will be yet, or how it will be, or whether you can sustain it. And it will not be done in theaters where everyone shares the same experience. It will become very private. You can't program it for everybody, and sitting down doesn't work so much. You can do it sitting down, but it's standing. Much of it is standing up. So how does one create that universe? I'm thinking about it all the time now, but again, I'm feeling like my time has passed. I don't really know. But I'm not the only person out there thinking about this stuff, and we will at some point have virtual reality movies. But right now, without a body, you can only be a consciousness going through the journey. Some kind of consciousness, like someone who just got killed, and you're out there watching yourself, watching the life around you and the people, like Sixth Sense going on around you. That kind of fascinating. But I don't know how that's all going to play out. But believe me, people are going to be thinking about it, and I don't know about our children's children. I don't know. People will be going to see these movies, including we may. So it'll be really interesting.
It's not a question, but for me, it kind of like also hurts maybe like the different. I know that we perceive everything through the mind, so that the shift, may be a good way to go for the shift. But a lot of times, my shift in my busy day or my worries is away from being here and now, and there's a certain visceral, the flowers, the stillness of the flowers, or even the stand. You feel that in a certain way that, maybe going to a virtual reality, you may experience it, but not really like feel it as the isness of it, Sort of maybe the difference between texting and talking, where you don't get the nuances and stuff.
That it may be. On the other hand, a lot of virtual realities are discovering are best when they're meditative. In other words, they bring you to that stillness that you're describing. They're finding a lot of people don't like the motion of virtual reality, and they like the absolute stillness that comes from being in a field of flowers, for example. And people are just brought into this, and they settle into the wonder of that. It's really kind of interesting, And also, this idea that you're expressing of getting away from this reality to go to a stiller place, I would probably, as a teacher for you, tell you, try to find that, whatever that is, right here. Rather than have to go somewhere else and have one place be the place you don't want to go to the place you want to be, try to begin to find that very embrace of the what is, or of this very thing. That is transformative. Going away from it is what all of us human beings are always trying to do, through every kind of technique we can find, from drugs to alcohol to sex, is getting away from this. I would try to teach you, be here in this, and watch what that is, and that it's much more liberating than the ability to get away from this. And so it's a whole other kind of journey. How virtual reality plays out in that, I don't know, other than what I just said. If it gets you to appreciate the flower and appreciate stillness, or being in this beautiful glen, and you just go, I don't need more than this. Well, then in a way, it's kind of what you're talking about. It's kind of the escape into stillness. I would say escape back into presence, whatever that presence may be. It has unbelievable presence. That's why it's so powerful. It actually feels like you're there. I mean, really there. And that's what's so altering about it. Okay, it's a weird topic for this talk, but I think it's important, and I'm glad to bring it up. And it's a demarcation, I think, and we'll see where it all goes. And maybe a few years from now, we'll take this further. Thank you guys for coming. Let me just say, we will be here next weekend. April's turned out to be a strangely crowded month. we're going to be in LA twice and in Atlanta for a wedding once. So there's only going to be one class in April, which I think is the second weekend of April. We'll let you know. We'll send something out. So I apologize.
The next 2 Sundays.
What?
We'll be here the next.
We'll be here the next 2 Sundays, and then there will be a series of 4 Sundays in which we'll only be here once. So thank you for showing up.
Thank you.